Hello and welcome to the Free Outside Show. Today, let's get into Montana Meltdown. I seem to be losing my voice a little bit, probably because it's winter here. It snowed last night in Montana, and today, after I finish recording, I probably need to light my stove and, light my fire. Come on, baby. Okay, let's get into it. Montana Meltdown, inaugural year. So I thought about doing a race for a long time. Actually, the idea kind of first came up in 2021. I went and had a beer with my friend, Sam. One beer turned into many, but since he drinks Budweiser, basically you just have to pee and don't really feel the effects of too much beer. But we talked about putting on like a last person standing or fixed time race, and then time kind of floated by. I think we had similar skill sets, or we have. He's still with us. But it just wasn't, you need like the complementary skill set, and I was not feeling up to doing something alone. And then this year just kind of went weird. So in January, the movie came out, Free Outside. You can watch it anywhere movies are sold, or if you're in the US of A, because now we have plenty of international listeners. How exciting is that? If you're in the US of A, then Tubi, it's on there for free. So the movie came out in January, built up. I was going to do an FKT in February, but I had the flu or something, so that was a waste. Didn't work. And my friend I was going to do it with had a broken bone, so bad luck to us there. But I did Cocodona. I got injured pretty early on, but stuck with it. Finished in 6th place for the 3rd year in a row, so something there. Had like 6 weeks of PT and rehab for my Achilles, not for the Budweiser that we drank earlier. But let's see. Then I moved into, after this rehabilitation period for my Achilles, I went after the Tahoe Rim Trail record. My pack broke. I got stung by a bee. There's a whole podcast on it. It was an epic failure. It did not go well. So that didn't work out. And then I built up and was going to go after Wasatch 100. That didn't work out. I got COVID and only made it 60 miles before my first DNF. But sometime in that summer where it felt like things were not really going my way, I decided I would bring it up to Allison, my partner, about having a race, and that I'd always wanted to do one, and investigated. I contacted the Forest Service. I got to know some people there just by volunteering. And my dream of a 50-mile route didn't really work out this year, maybe in the future. But there was an option for a fixed time race. So I've done a number of them, and I found them really enjoyable. It's kind of weird. Like, you do run loops for 4 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours. I did 48 hours at one, but it's not boring because you see all your competitors on every loop. There's an aid station every mile to 2 miles, depending on the course. And you interact with the volunteers, and you don't have to carry a vest. You can topical cool every mile. You can eat whatever you want. Where we were at, you could even DoorDash food if you wanted to. So it takes a lot of the factors out of it and just hones in on simply running or hiking or moving. And that's what people did. And so because of enjoying this type of format and having the nearest one to Bozeman be 10 hours away in Boise, I decided with Allison that we should put one on. And we have complementary skill sets, so she's very good at the organization and has done a lot of like movie shoots and stuff like that, so has a lot better idea about how to feed a bunch of people and stuff. And I don't know what I bring. I've just done a lot of races, I guess. So we put it on with like 2 to 3 months to the event, announced it, put it out there. All the logistics of even figuring out where to rent porta potties from, which are actually quite expensive. Oh my gosh. Some of those things to direct a race really add up. But we figured that out, and then we just kind of pushed it, and we're just going to see what happens. So we got, 35 or so entrants the first year. About half of them did the 24-hour. and quite a few did the 4-hour as well. And the lesser attended distance was the 12-hour if you want to come out and go for a trophy next year. But it turned out really good. The weather was perfect. We had a photographer that I've always liked the races where you get your photos for free. Like the photographer is paid by the race and then they put photos out there. So they're not for free. It's basically covered in your entry fee. But it's always fun to get good photos from a professional. And so that was one thing we did is we hired a photographer, took some photos, and then sent them out. Kurt, he was awesome. And then we set up everything, did like a $500, $600, $700. I don't even remember. We went to 3 stores for the shopping run the day before. And funny story. So we went to, Costco, Winco, maybe like Safeway or something. Just, so many errands. And then we went to Michael's for some craft stuff. I went to Spirit of Halloween to get spider webs because, you got to throw some theme in there. And we had plenty of people dressing up, and that was really fun to go with that. But when we were at Winco, was getting bulk peanut M&Ms because, staple, they're awesome. They got your protein in the nut. They got your sweetness in the chocolate, and they melt in your mouth, not in your hand. Have you heard? So we were getting those, fill up a bag, and Allison fills it extremely full. And then it's my turn. I fill up another bag, extremely full. No big deal. Finish shopping and check out and get up to where you put your stuff on the conveyor belt thing that the employee checks you out. And Allison says she's going to go to the bathroom. No big deal. So I unload everything, and the last couple things are the bulk items. And I pull the peanut M&Ms out of the basket, and the whole bottom of the bag rips out, and they're just pouring onto the floor. It just sounds like almost like if hail is coming down really hard on your, car or something. It just sounded like just pouring out of these peanut M&Ms all over the floor. They're going everywhere. They're like rolling all the way into the aisles. People are running them over with their carts. So they're just smashing them into the ground. The guy behind me in line is like, "Oh, that sucks." And it was like, yeah, I don't really know what to do. So I just kept putting my stuff on the conveyor belt. Now I'm wading through a sea of peanut M&Ms. And I check out. The clerk, cashier, the checkout woman didn't even hear or notice any of this happening. So I got up there. I'm continuing to ignore what destruction I've caused in Winco. And so finished checking out, and you have to bag your own stuff there. So I'm bagging my own stuff, and the guy behind me is like, "Yeah, there's a pretty big spill of peanut M&Ms back here." And so the cashier calls somebody to come sweep it up. And I'm bagging up the stuff we bought, a few $100s worth, so plenty. Then I grab the other bag of peanut M&Ms, and it immediately breaks when I pick it up. So it's pouring out onto the floor, and I saved some of it by putting it in a bag. But as the pieces are rolling across the floor, the lady with the broom to sweep up the original mess sees these and is like, "Oh, wow, I guess there's another spill." And it was like, all I could think to say was, "Yep, I don't know what's happening. I think they're just coming out of my shoes." And so that's the story of why we didn't have quite so many peanut M&Ms. The first bag, didn't pay for. The second bag that I spilled, I certainly paid for before we even got it out of there. So that's the funny story of shopping. And then, of course, there's things that you want to get from Costco versus Winco versus we have like 12, 13, maybe 15 grocery stores in town now. So we got a little bit of everything. And since Allison's vegan, we wanted to have some good options for anyone that was vegan out there, because we did have a few vegan, gluten-free, different dietary restrictions. So the shopping, I think, was the most unknown part, because we walked in and Allison goes, "So what's our budget?" And it was like, I don't know. Like, I think it's the first year. We just want everyone to feel like we had something for them and enjoyed the experience. So bought a lot of food. Porta potties were expensive. Everything else kind of just winged it, I guess. I don't know. We had really good volunteers too. That was cool. It's always scary when you put out something like this. So even like I can only do it once in a while. That's why it took a few months after the movie came out before I could start this podcast, or a few months after that before launching this race. It's like when your success or what you're putting out depends on people to pay attention, click on something, sign up, or in this case, run for hours on end. It's a little scary because it's out of your control versus going for like an FKT, especially a self-supported or unsupported FKT. You're in charge of yourself, all your issues, all the things you do, that's on you. So it's scary to put something out there. And now I've done a lot of different things that I put out there. So really just wanted to have a race so I could add it to my portfolio of now add in race director, movie, book, podcast, signature meal, and in GQ and Sports Illustrated. So obviously, so that has been wild. On the coaching front, it's the funny time of year where it seems like half of athletes are like ready for winter and the other half are like just came off an awesome result and ready to get back out there. I don't know why I even brought up that tangent. Okay, back to the meltdown. Okay, so we have all this stuff. Then my parents get into town and we're not the best at, communicating everything. So I wasn't quite sure where they were going to stay. Like, are they staying with me or not? But then they arrive, get some water, coolers, some containers from them, and then they actually camped in town. They brought their van out. So it was fun that they came out and supported the race too. My mom, spoiler, got second in the 12-hour. She set her PR for miles in a day. Then we wake up early, go out there, and then it's kind of a race then. Got out there a little bit before 8 a.m. because I'm not really a morning person. We set all the start times. The first one was at 10 a.m. for the 24-hour and the 12-hour, and the 4-hour was at noon. So it was a pretty good spread, gave us plenty of time to set up in the morning. But get out there and it's like a race of Jim, our timing guy, officially timed event. It's on Ultra Sign Up. We are so official. But he is out there setting up his stuff. We're running extension cords for things. And then it's like, well, I got to go flag the course. So I had 200 flags and I just walked 1.5 mile circle, put out the flags, and good to go. So it was kind of fun of tackling different things, trusting each other to get stuff done. And then just the setup, we had a big inflatable ghost that we found on special at Winco that just flapped and blew in the wind all night. And so that was fun. The spiderwebs, cobwebs, so made the most on a limited budget, first inaugural year, and learned a lot of stuff, especially like what people want. So the first race starts, the first 2 races start, and people just start going. They started out so hot, like 8-minute mile hot. It was, I don't know, they were just like crushing laps. It was about 1.5 mile loop, and they're coming around in like 11, 12 minutes every single time. For like 2 hours, the leaders were sub 8-minute pace. So that was pretty crazy. I think it did lead to a few blowups. And then we got the 4-hour race started, got to give my pre-game speech, on how to attack the course, everything going on. Started them off, and they were once again really quick. And then time kept going on, and that's when realized what kind of food people wanted. And it was like 90% of the food people ate was like 10% of the items we brought. So we went through soup really quick, especially when it got cold overnight. A lot of just hotter things that people wanted, I think, just because it was like 70 plus degree high. It was actually hot out there. There was some topical cooling going on because we're Montana and not used to it. And then there was like dressing up in a bunny onesie and putting on a bunch of warm layers and sitting by the heater that we had out during the night. It was kind of fun for the 24-hour and 12-hour runners to get to go through the whole day, get to experience all the weather we get here in the Montana fall. And yeah, it was fun. Then the winners, 4-hour finished at 4 p.m., 12-hour finished at 10 p.m., and 24-hour finished at 10 a.m. the next day. It was awesome. Got to give out the podium awards, and yeah, it was really fun. Had finisher, I don't know, should I say it? Had finisher kazoos. So if you were a finisher, you had like a kazoo, especially by us, with a ribbon that said Montana Meltdown tied around it. So keep that fun vibe going. And yeah, we had, a fixed time race. If you start, you finish. So we had 100% finisher rate. So there you go. Take that, Western States and Hard Rock. I know yours is high, but ours is higher. Will we do it again next year? I don't know. I don't think me and Allison have really talked, but I suspect we may. We probably will. So it was fun. I would still love to find a 50-mile route to do around here because I think our mountains are so cool, and I think 50 miles is the best distance because you're out there for a long time, but you don't have to go through usually the dark at all or the night, and you can start in your own bed and finish in your own bed, especially for a local race. So I think that's fun. I was really surprised at how awesome people were for volunteering, coming out, helping out, even in the wee hours of the night. My friend Calvin brought out a light for us to use because we were kind of winging it with a couple different lights that I had at the aid station, and we were just set up and rolling. It was pretty awesome. So fun time. Advice to anyone looking to have a race out there is just do it. Get into the inaugural year and do it, and you'll learn so much about next year. We were asking people like how they heard about it and all kinds of stuff like that. We had a local reporter do the 24-hour. Her previous PR, mileage PR, was 18 miles. And so she did like 70 or something. So she blew her PR away. I would like next year to get a bell out there. So once people hit their PR, they ring a bell. It's kind of a across the years by Aravaipa tradition, or a few other fixed times. So that would be fun to do. But that is the inaugural year of Montana Meltdown. Awesome time out there. And sorry there weren't more peanut M&Ms. We'll have to get more peanut M&Ms and more soup for next year. Okay, other things going on. The Arizona Trail is heating up. Eric, I don't remember his trail name. His last name starts with an H, but he's going for, might be Halston. He's going for the Arizona Trail self-supported record headed southbound. And Mike McKnight will be going for the supported FKT record. That's like where he gets support in a van and stuff starting, I don't know, probably pretty darn soon. So it's been an exciting year, and the Arizona Trail is always funny because you can go two directions. So in the spring, you can go north. Well, you could go either direction any time of year, but it's more conducive to go north in the spring. So you start down south, obviously if you're going north, but there's usually more water in the spring, but the downside, and maybe cooler, the downside is you might hit snow on the north rim. In fact, you probably will. During my FKT, I had a pretty solid last day and a half, maybe 2 days of snow out there. But then I set the record in, say, April or May. And then it was broken just like 6 months later in October during the southbound season, where the downside is it can be really muddy up north, but you won't have snow. There's also less water. So I think the fall time of year is probably slightly quicker than the spring, but if you get a good weather window without snow in the spring, I think that could be perfect, but you don't get it every year. So that'll be exciting to watch those. It's been an interesting FKT season. It seems like a few trails have gotten a ton of action. There were a few attempts on the AT with Tara Dower bringing it home, and then the Colorado Trail had tons of action, maybe like 6 people setting records, or maybe like 4 or 5 setting records, and 7 or 8 or more going after them. So it's been kind of crazy where it's confined to a few trails. The Long Trail had a new supported record by Will Peterson, Sisyphus, I believe. So it's been, an interesting year of FKTs, and a lot of them are in the multi-day space. I mean, we had the Whirl go down, which is classic Salt Lake City route, but it'll be interesting at the end of the year how they vote on FKT of the year and see how that shakes out, especially because we've just had such varied action on so many different trails this year. Okay, let's dive into the personal journey. So it's been a really disappointing year. I always want and expect to get everything right, hit my goals, and be 100% in. And I think that's how you have to be for things like a 250-mile race, an FKT, multiple 100-mile races, and putting on a race or putting out a movie or starting a podcast. I think you got to be committed in envisioning success. I think it's a little different with the podcast since every day I'm like, who even listens to this? So I think that's a little imposter syndrome because I'm no Joe Rogan over here. I don't really want to be either. But it's been disappointing. It's like I've come up short on almost all my goals. The only one that I did pretty well at was Grand to Grand stage race about a month ago, where everything just went fine. I wasn't that all consumed with it heading in. I didn't really do a ton of research, but it just went fine, and I feel good about it. Got second place with something going fine. But other than that, there's been a ton of failure. Like Cocodona, I finished under the old course record, but I left so many hours on the table just from working with an injury for 200 miles of it, which probably not that smart because, spoiler alert, I don't know why I say spoiler alert if I'm not going to mention it later too. So I'm not even spoiling anything. But that Achilles pain is back. And I think it's from doing so many miles at Grand to Grand where I was carrying a heavy pack, pushing uphills all day, every day, not great recovery. And since early September, I've really cut down on some of the PT and weightlifting until recently, just because I wouldn't say I didn't have time. It's more when I was peaking for Wasatch, I really dropped the strength way down, and I'm running more hours, and you can only push your body so much, and I don't want to be sore muscularly while trying to do a lot of miles. So I cut down starting then I had COVID. I was down for a bit and then headed into Grand to Grand. That was like 2.5 weeks later. I didn't do much PT or strength training. After that, I took a complete week off everything because I was pretty tired and depleted with some deep fatigue, and then just started getting back into it in the last week, 2 weeks. And I think it's just like, I don't know, all the things I've done and then trying to run. Again, now I was doing a short build for Javelina just to see how the body feels, and the answer is not good. So I'm going to listen to the advice I've given many times to athletes just with coaching and stuff, and I need to listen to my body and make the decision that lets me do this for a long time, not just one time for a good time. So I do not think I will be running Javelina. I've tested my legs and I can definitely get through 100 miles, no question. But I think with my Achilles hurting on 10, 12 mile runs, it would be a major setback and hurt going into next year. And with goals like Cocodona and maybe other things on the table, I think I'm going to dial it back and begin what I kind of call an off season earlier. By off season, I don't mean I'm just going to stop running. It's going to be more of a balance. I'm going to up the gym workouts and the weight a little bit because this is the time you can build speed and muscle and shape your body and become whatever you want to become, which is neat. You can always be whatever you want when you grow up within reason. Actually, within a lot of reason. You can only be so many things. But that is the plan. I will start running, get running some more, but do a more holistic approach with, attacking things kind of in the right order of get my Achilles back, get some fitness going and work on speed and shorter stuff, drop my volume by about 50% and really hit the gym more. So it'll be more scheduled workouts actually than throughout the rest of the year. And since I'm self-coached now, it's going to be me listening to me, which is always interesting. So that's where I am at personally. As far as everything else going, I think I'm going to get a sewing machine because I want a winter hobby, and I have sewn 2 things in my life. One was a shelter, a tent, a tarp. It was pretty cool, actually. It was a very hard project. I did not know that's what was going to be involved. And the other was my classic tiger hoodie that you've seen with the cutoff sleeves. I hemmed those suckers up myself and broke the long trail FKT with that guy on. So that's my plan for the year. Hopefully I can get in fast packing trip, backpacking, or an FKT or something over the winter, because it is kind of weird to sit here now and look at over 6 months with nothing huge scheduled. So there are a few hundreds that I'm really interested in, and I might jump in between now and then. But for now, it is dialing it back, listening to my body. And yeah, one other thing that's kind of been worrisome is I'm having this breathing thing, which I think is just from having COVID and doing a bunch of stuff with COVID, is every time I breathe in really deeply, my chest gets kind of tight, which is not the most fun feeling, especially having asthma, and, breathing is pretty essential. So it's a little scary. I've actually had a couple asthma attacks in my life where I could not breathe, I was also having like a panicky feeling that I was in a lot of trouble and things were not improving. Okay, that is the Montana Meltdown. That's my own personal stuff. That's some FKTs going on now. I will still be out at Javelina, so say hi. I will be out there, maybe live commentating. You guys should all just comment on Aravipa Running's recent Instagram posts and tell them I should commentate or something. Let's brute force this into existence, because it'd be fun to be up there and commenting all kinds of fun stuff. Okay, that is a wrap on the podcast today. I'm sure there's more I could talk about. I'm just actually pretty exhausted, so I stayed up all night with Montana Meltdown, helping runners, working that aid station, getting people in and out of there and around for more loops. So I skipped a night of sleep, and I don't think I can get back on track as quickly as I used to. But either way, thank you guys for being here. 5-star reviews on Apple Podcast or Spotify, and all that's great. You can leave a comment on this episode too, or any episode. And thank you all for being here. We're just chugging along. We're almost at 50 episodes, so that's pretty awesome. All right, until next time, thanks guys, and stay elite, my friends.